What's good, y'all? Welcome to another Anything by Mansa Canna. I'm Mansa, and today I have one of my great friends, one of my former teammates in the hurdles at UC, Hauna Dawkins. Today, she is going to be breaking down exactly how to become a person in the property management business. What's property management? If you know somebody that lives in some rented apartment or facility, she's probably connected to how, well, her position at least is connected to how that place continues to stay up and the keeping, when I mean stay up, keep the upkeep. Nonetheless, let's get straight to it. She's on a shorter time schedule than usual, so we're going to just dive right into it. The first question, which is necessary in order for me to interview, is do you like your job?
I do. I do like my job. I've been in the industry for 8 years now. So I think I like it a little bit. And I do enjoy it. It's one of those jobs. It's a career for me that doesn't feel like work. And so it's something that I do enjoy.
Okay, perfect. Because I have to ask that question, because without that question being asked, then frankly, we're probably wasting time, because I ain't trying to set people up to hate they 40 hours, 48 hours, 60 hours, or how many hours they work in a week by
Right.
showing them a new position that somebody else hates. So
Right.
with that, like I said, we're on a short schedule, so we're going to try something new this time. The title, what does your current title as a regional manager mean?
Mm-hmm. So as a regional manager, I oversee the overall operations of multiple sites. So as a property manager, you may be in the office of one particular site dealing with the day-to-day operations. In my role, I am over multiple managers at different locations. So it's not always, the term regional manager doesn't always speak to where you are geographically. I know that some companies identify as regional managers, you'll have Ohio, Kentucky, and, Tennessee or something like that. In my role, I do have properties in Kentucky and Ohio. And so I manage around 1,000 units. So it's different properties. And I, oversee the operations, financials, deal with HR issues and hiring. And it's a little bit of everything in my role, managing capital projects. So I stay pretty busy in my role.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I remember we might have been 5-6 years removed. Wow, sounds like a long time since we've been in our professional lives outside of this. But I remember when I had a student that I wanted to introduce to you. You showed me one of your facilities that you were actually responsible for. It sounds like you're not necessarily directly responsible for a specific multi-unit property. It sounds like you have people under you who are responsible for it, and you're just tracking what's going on with all those multiple locations. Is that accurate?
Yes and no. So I've got people that are on boots on the ground is what I identify. I've got people that have got boots on the ground, but I am really the liaison between what's going on with the boots on the ground and the owners. So, it's the people that actually own the asset. They could be in Iceland or China or, traveling in Africa or what have you. And then they come in town, they want reports, they want to review financials, they want to tour the property. And, when they've got questions or they need information, I'm the person that they, communicate with. And so it's, although I'm not at any given location, 9 to 5, ultimately, though the properties and locations that I'm responsible for are, all under my umbrella and, kind of my name's attached to them.
Gotcha. Let's go ahead and take that path, because I know there's several levels to the position of being a person in property management. So your specific path to regional manager, that first role, and let's work our way up that.
Yeah. So I actually started as a leasing agent. I started from the ground up, and I actually have not I've only worked for one company. And I started leasing at that property. I was living at a property, and, there was a time in my life where it was time to kind of switch careers and kind of actually figure out what I wanted to do. And I went to the leasing office where I lived and was like, hey, you guys hiring? And they're like, no, we're not hiring right now, but here's our HR lady, reach out to her and see if there's anything available. within the company. And I did that. And I started out being a leasing agent, and within a couple of months, moved up to be an assistant manager, eventually a property manager at my own site. And I had a regional manager above me. And then, with time and hard work and, just absorbing the industry as a whole and just kind of perfecting my craft. And I became a regional manager. So I started from the bottom and kind of worked my way up to my role that I'm in now.
That's wild. That's wild. So I don't want to just skate past, because there's somebody that's going to have to take the path. What does leasing agent entail? What does that actually look like? What's the responsibilities?
Yeah. So being a leasing agent, you are I train my team, to think this way. You are the face of the property, because if a prospect is coming into an apartment complex, the first person they see is typically going to be a leasing agent. And so it's a sales role, it's an admin role. It's, you have to be able to communicate with people. You are the person that's going to be touring the apartments, and, dealing with tenants, building that tenant rapport, taking phone calls if tenants call and they've got, an issue in their apartment. Typically the leasing agent is the person in the office keeping things organized, taking those phone calls, documenting work orders, maybe doing a little bit of marketing. So it's a really fun role, because I feel like, some positions, like, you do the same thing every day. In property management, there should be a show. Like, I'm pitching to HGTV one of these days. There should be a show, because it's not the same every day. Every day it's something different. You get to work with the public, work with people, and that makes it a lot of fun. And it makes your role very diverse. So yeah.
Question, because and I'm giving y'all free whatever. If somebody steals it, I'm so sorry, honey. You just gotta get on it quicker. Is there anything proprietary in your day-to-day life that you couldn't allow people on the outside to see? I only ask that because when you say that, my immediate thought is, well, sounds like you need to go ahead and talk to the people above you and say, hey, let's go ahead and set up our own camera. I got my own thing. I have it in the corner, and we'll have day-to-day. We can cut it. I'll make notes throughout the day, whatever little funny or crazy thing might be needed to edit. And then I'll take care of all of that. Right. And I'm going to send it off to whoever I want to send it to. And that part of the conversation, of course, is going to be HR. They're going to be looking at it, making sure nothing proprietary, no secrets are being given out. But I think you already got it going on. So I think you got the personality. I know you well enough that I think you could pull off the whole TV show thing and go ahead and just go ahead and submit it. I don't know. Sometimes you got to get active. That's all I'm saying. But it sounds like you already did that, because you were living in a location. I was like, I want a job. Hey, y'all hire?
Right. Yes. Right.
Yeah, that's wild. That's why I wouldn't even have thought about doing it's so obvious now that you say it like that.
Yeah. But I used to watch HGTV. Like, I'm obsessed with all the shows, and like just kind of being, just wanting to know more about the industry. My grandfather was a real estate agent for a portion of his life when he was still here. And, it's just something that I've always kind of just been naturally drawn to, which is why, again, it just doesn't feel like work. It's more fun. And of course on TV, it's all dramatics, right? But really, it is some of the stuff that you see on TV, with renovations and projects. And so, obviously, like in my role, maybe not obviously, but in my role, I deal with, capital projects, replacing roofs, and sometimes remodeling units. So, from a property management aspect, it's so many things that I deal with, like remodeling and financials. So I really enjoy my role, and a TV show I think it would be a hit. So maybe we can talk after this.
Definitely. So just me ironing a little bit more with the leasing agent. Is that the person who's doing the staging of the properties that are probably empty or whatnot?
So typically at like an apartment complex, there's some properties have what we would call a model apartment. Mm-hmm. And so the leasing agents may not stage apartments per se, but they're definitely showing them. So there may be a designated 1 or 2 bedroom apartment that is set up so that a prospect could visualize, like, okay, I can see my bed here. Obviously there's a bed here. And they can kind of visualize, what it would be like for them to stay in a similar space. And so they would, meet with, a prospect and to collect their information and, and, turn on that salesmanship hat and, talk about all the amenities and the features that the apartments have, and guide them to, take them to the apartment, answer questions. They would also, help them fill out the application, answer any questions about the application process, process the applications, which is just as simple as most apartment complexes and companies use a third-party processing system. So they are processing applications and, drafting leases. There's obviously templates for leases, and each company kind of uses their own variation of leases, and they get those out to people, and they get paid commission for that. I know that a lot of companies, it varies, how much you get paid per sale or per lease that you have signed, or but yeah, from like start to finish, it's like touring the apartment, processing the application, getting the lease signed, and then obviously on move-in day, you want to walk the apartment that you rented for someone and make sure everything looks good. And so yeah.
Okay. What's the next role after this? The one that you had, your next role after that?
Yeah. So the next role after a leasing agent is the assistant manager role. And again, some companies have different intermediate like roles in between, but typically you're going to see a leasing agent, then assistant manager. And in the assistant manager role, you kind of do a little bit more. You do what the leasing agent does, because the assistant manager can still lease apartments, but they may be actually the ones, when someone moves out of an apartment, you don't snap your fingers and it's not ready for the next person, right? There's a lot of coordination there with painters and carpet cleaners and carpet replacement companies and carpet installers and maybe cabinets. So the assistant manager may have a role of, getting the apartments ready for, the next person to move into the apartment. The assistant manager role also may be a little bit more involved with the marketing. So the leasing agent, they've got boots on the ground trying to get people, into the apartments and, meeting with prospects and dealing with tenants. The assistant manager may also deal with prospects and tenants, but maybe on a different level. So if there's an issue with an apartment that someone moved into, or if there's an issue with a current tenant that has, a maintenance concern, the assistant manager may step in and, try to resolve that issue for the tenant. They also may get into doing deposits. So, people pay rent every month, right? So, they may be a part of the accounts payables and accounts receivables process in a property management company. So it's just a little bit more. It's, assistant manager. I have some people on my team that have dual roles that are an assistant manager, but there's not a leasing agent under them. And so it's typically at a smaller location, you may promote a leasing agent to an assistant manager title because they can kind of do both. So it's a leasing agent, I guess, foundation with a little bit more responsibility in the assistant manager role.
Okay. All right. What's the next role?
And then you get the property manager hat. So as the property manager, you are the point of contact for a regional manager. You are in control of everything at that property, obviously. And the property manager role, you should know how to lease apartments. You should also, have some experience. Obviously, as assistant manager, you wouldn't be a property manager if you, probably didn't master the assistant manager role in some way, shape, or form. And then you're also in charge of maintenance. And so, you can have maintenance technicians on property. Every property has maintenance techs. Things break, you got to have it fixed. And so not only are you kind of in charge of, the leasing and the marketing aspect of things, but you're also managing your staff. And then you're also managing not your office staff, but you're also your maintenance staff. So if, there's an issue that your assistant manager is not able to resolve, you're the person that can step in and kind of has a little bit more freedom to call some shots in regard to, what you can do and what you can't do for a tenant that's upset. And you are that point of contact with your regional manager, who ultimately, in my role, is kind of in charge of everything. And so instead of having 10 people for me to kind of talk to and get information from. I just typically communicate with the property manager, although you know, I have access to everybody, but you know, I try to delegate everything to the property manager, who's kind of in control of everything. They do deposits and pay invoices, and you know, walk apartments, walk the property, deal with capital projects like roof replacements, paving on the property, dealing with the swimming pools. All of that would be under the property manager role.
All right. All right. Now, I know the next role that you had was regional manager, which is your current role, correct?
Yes. Yep.
So there was some missing areas in there that I wanted to go ahead and clear up, which is, what is the process of being promoted, and how many years were you in each of those roles? You were a leasing agent. If you remember, how many years were you a leasing agent, and what's the promotion process?
Okay, so I started in 2013. I was as a leasing agent. I was a leasing agent, honestly, for a couple of months, and then an opportunity came available for me to kind of be promoted to an assistant manager role. And remember, I mentioned it was at the same location that I was at. So I was then entered into the industry as a leasing agent, but was promoted within that same property as an assistant manager, because I proved that I could, you know, kind of master the basic, traffic of the leasing agent. And so I would say I was there for a couple of months, became an assistant manager. I was there for about, I think a year, 6 months to a year, 8 months to a year. And then I was a property manager for a couple of years, like 2 or 3 years. And then I became a regional manager. I've been in my current role since 2000, got married in 2015. So I think it's been 2016 when I became a regional manager.
Nice. All right. Going up that same ladder. What was if you're comfortable seeing how it was years ago, I would love to hear the salary that you held in those positions. If you're not comfortable, then feel free to say the salary range for those positions.
Yeah, I mean, so to be completely transparent,
role, please do not see your current role salary. Instead, say the salary range for what a regional manager could be making.
Yeah, I think that as a leasing agent, and of course, this was 8 years ago, but I mean, I can even potentially speak to what, we hire people in at now, because it's more, to be frank, it's more money now than what I was making as a leasing agent.
Well, then even better. Tell me what you was making then when it was lower, and then let's talk about what it is now.
Yeah, so when I first got in, I was making like $11, $12 an hour as a leasing agent. And then as an assistant manager, that's when they kind of transfer you over to salary. And so into that, like 32, 35 managers, I would say property managers are making like 45 to 50-ish or so. And my numbers may not be concrete, but it's speaking to like maybe what we bring people in at now, like, leasing agents can come in making, $14, $15 an hour, and then broken off into tiers above that. So, but property managers, I would say probably like 40 to 50 for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the regional manager, if you were talking to peers across the industry, because I assume you probably have been to different conferences and whatnot, what have you heard the general salary tend to be for your position?
I think that in a regional manager role, and again, it can be different with every different companies. I know that all this is potentially accessible, like on things like Glassdoor and things like that. But I know that I would expect to be, if you're not in the six figures, around the six-figure salary as a regional manager. I mean, if you think about it, if you got a property that's 100 units, and each unit is $800 a month, obviously you have to take your GPR, your gross potential rent, subtract all your expenses. You got your NOI, which is your net operating income. So the properties are making money, right? And so you want to definitely employ people that you trust, that know what they're doing. And so you got to pay people to do that type of thing. So definitely close to the six-figure salary, definitely upward of like 60, 70 in that role. And again, it definitely would depend on the number of units that you manage as well.
Absolutely. And I just want for anybody who's been following, you ought to pay attention. There's something that's really interesting, a common theme that I'm catching, which is, when we talk about Kroger's, Walmart, those type of places, people are like, man, you a manager there? Managers there start usually around 80, maybe 70. They make easily at Kroger like 100,000+. Why? Because they're in charge of millions of dollars of product. You're in charge of potential hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars.
Definitely millions. Yeah.
I didn't want to just assume, but you're in charge of millions of dollars of property, mixed with making sure that you're managing the people who are in charge of those properties. And you're also paying attention to how the property is maintaining so it can potentially increase in its value over time, the upkeep of everything around it. So the value that you're bringing is greater than maybe obviously what you're getting paid. So getting paid on those scales is really important, because people oftentimes miss and they don't recognize when you're doing value, you can get paid for the volume and the value that you're producing, especially when you recognize I'm producing for millions of dollars worth of opportunity for everyone surrounding me. My bosses, the owners of my company, and the owners that I'm connected to that own the properties.
Right. Yep.
All right.
Yep. 100%.
Let's talk that the part that we have to talk that we skipped over was what qualified you to be and what qualifies people to start off in leasing agent. Like, because obviously you went up the ladder. So let's start there. What's the qualification?
Yeah. So to get into this industry, you gotta like people. Okay. You have to be able to deal with people. You have to be a people person. You can't be someone that's like, you know what, please don't come into the office. I cannot deal. You can't be that person. People are going to come into the office and they expect to be greeted. No one wants to live somewhere where the Grinch is. Okay. So and that's from the leasing agent to the property manager, the assistant manager, the maintenance techs. You got to be a type of person that wants to help people, a person that wants to, that is willing to work with people first and foremost. And then, I would definitely say that the type of person that is going to be successful in this industry, you're not going to come in and do the same thing every day. I know I kind of touched base on that before, but you got to kind of be able to kind of roll with it, because again, when you're dealing with people, there's a whole level of unpredictability with that in itself. And then you're dealing with properties. And if you have ever lived in an apartment, lived in a home, things happen, right? And so you got to kind of just be able to just triage situations and just kind of roll with it, because every day is going to be a little different.
Yep. Is there education expectation?
To be honest, no. I would a high school diploma, be able to, there are, we want our leasing agents and assistant to be able to draft notices to properties. And, if the water is going to be shut off for a certain period of time, to be able to, construct a document or a letter or notice to be able to send out to the properties. I've had people that one of my peers, that not a college degree and same role as I'm in, super successful. So, if you've got what it takes, obviously a high school diploma and a college degree is great, but if you're willing to work and absorb the industry and learn and, do what it takes, I think anybody could be successful if they put their mind to it.
Okay. And they can work their way all the way up the ladder to regional manager is what I just heard.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's above regional manager?
So above a regional manager may be like a VP or like the owner. So I report directly to the owners. Our company there's regional managers, and then they're the VP and the president of the company, but they two are VP and president and owners of the company. So, outside of that, the VP or the president of a company, but it would just be almost, again, someone that the regional managers report to. And like I said, our VP and our president of the company that I work for, they also have percentage ownership in several of our different locations.
Gotcha. As we're talking about the properties that you're responsible for, does that mean, since the VP is above you, in this role, the longer you stay in, you begin to acquire more properties to be responsible for? What does that growth look like?
Yeah. So, these last couple of years have been really crazy in my role. We've done a lot of 1031 exchanges. And a 1031 exchange is when you have an asset, right? And you sell that asset. And in order to kind of avoid that tax on the capital gain, you take that money that you gained from selling the asset and you reinvest into another like property, right?
Mm-hmm.
For me, we've sold a lot of properties, we've purchased a lot of properties. We have owners, we do third party ownership as well. So we've got people that we manage properties for that aren't affiliated with the company, as far as like an owner or anything like that for the company that I work for, but they actually own a physical asset that we manage. And so, if an owner decides, hey, I'm going to buy that 300 unit property right there, and can we add that to my portfolio? There's obviously potential, then my 1,000 units would become 1,300, in that case. So, if they decide to purchase more properties or if they just sell some properties, so it's just very fluid, but definitely the opportunity to manage more units.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave this out because we got to shout out where we're from. Being a Bearcat, being an alumni. Yeah. Talk about your education real quick. You obviously graduated high school up there in Columbus and you came down to UC. What were your college degrees?
My college degree, communication. I was a communication major at UC. I flirted with some business classes, but I didn't get a minor in business. I was done in 4 years. I was out of there in 4 years. But and so, I pretty much just really learned, I guess, in college, like what I pulled from is how to talk to people, like communication. We learned a lot about like persuasive communication and rhetoric and all that stuff that everyone says is, boring. But I really I was a kid that I really liked school. I don't know, Mario, did you like school? Did you enjoy going to college? Did you enjoy college?
Ooh, you had a question that was easy to answer. And then you followed up with the question that was a good question. Did I enjoy it?
Did you enjoy it?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, you're an athlete. You ran with me. Think about it. Like, to think about now, we missed out on. And by the way, if you didn't realize, not talking to you, Hauna, we're track athletes. Our sport takes place at the end of the year. We also get a winter season.
Time.
We get 2 weeks season. Really. Yeah, we get like 2 weeks of a break once the season ends, and then you're back training. So you're training pretty much the entire year. We missed out on a true spring break. Like, we did. I'm actually going to Cancun very soon, and it just hit me like it's the first time I've ever been there. Like, I went to Miami, and I did go during COVID. I didn't realize that it was spring break, but I was in Miami for spring break. I didn't get to enjoy and partake in any of that stuff. Me and my wife, we passed that phase of life, but nonetheless, it's like those are the moments that you realize, you really never had that experience. Like, we got to enjoy certain things, but if you want to be responsible and you're trying to take your body to a personal record, make it go fast and it's ever gone, then chances are you're not necessarily doing and wasting enough energy and time to experience some of these things that your peers may have been doing because of the gamble.
No, I agree.
So I think it allowed me to be more focused, but did I truly enjoy college to the extent I enjoyed my experience? But I can only imagine the experience my peers had that, when season ends right there in May and we got that gap of 7 hours that everyone else is failing. You're like, how y'all failing? We got like 3 hours, and then we wake up at 6. We wake up at 5:30.
6 a.m. morning runs. 5. I remember those morning runs. I'm up at 5:45, brushing my teeth, sprinting to the morning runs.
Yeah, because we always late. You get there at 5:59. You right on time. You just merge in like here. But no, so that's my answer. But was there a plan? Because that's interesting that you just went to your property management company of your property that you were living in and spoke with them. Did you have a plan for that communications degree?
No. So back in my college days, as focused as I was in the track, I I did a lot of I did a lot of events, right? So I wanted to go into event planning. So I did the communications degree. I didn't have a plan. I wanted to be an event coordinator. That was my goal from, I guess, maybe in college. I don't know what dawned on me, but I started having these like parties, right? And so I really wanted to go into event coordinating with weddings and baby showers. And I kind of did that like on the side, hustling, trying to make some money here and there. And then when I graduated, I went into I had my kids. I had when I graduated, I had two daughters. I had a daughter in high school, and I had my second daughter when I was a senior in college. And so my main goal out of college was I have to have a job. Like I can't move back to Columbus. I need to have a job. And so, I started working as an office manager for a landscaping company, kind of being I did everything from payroll to working with contracts to cut the Walgreens down the street, and every Walgreens in Burlington, Kentucky. Like I just did everything for the owner of the landscaping company there. And kind of when that fell apart, what I liked to do was watch HGTV. I liked to learn about remodeling, and I liked the idea of like selling houses and kind of just being involved with what I saw on TV, which kind of just led me to like, hey, yo, like, are you guys hiring? Like literally what you said is what happened. Is you guys looking for somebody? And it just kind of grew from there. So my intention or plan was never, I didn't know I guess it was naive of me, but I didn't really think that this was a career. I didn't know of this growing up. I didn't know apartment manager or anything like that. And, I guess I didn't really, I'm saying this all right now. I'm like stuttering because this is all kind of coming to me as I'm saying it. Like I didn't really realize that this was a thing, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, and for me, it just kind of landed in my lap, or I kind of landed in the company that I work for's lap. Like, hey, you guys looking for somebody? And it just ended up kind of working out.
See, that's why I do this, is because oftentimes, like, a position like yours is so obvious. Almost every
Mm-hmm.
city has a college, every major city has a college, and they have to live somewhere outside of the dorms oftentimes. And people just forget all about these positions that are right there in their face. And
Right.
they're amazing opportunities. People love property, people love and have the passion like you do. But I want to run back to something because we hadn't really built on it, but I was going to definitely mention it. So let me be clear, y'all. The person that I'm currently interviewing was a mom coming into college. As she mentioned, she graduated in 4 years. What she didn't mention was she came into college with a kid, but she was a freaking beast in the hurdles while she was there. And she was there obviously full time. So
Mm-hmm.
the fact that she overcame, I don't even know if I want to say like you had your own testimony that I don't necessarily know, obviously, completely. But I can only imagine the type of work and the mental gymnastics that you had to overcome in order to be successful running track, having a kid that we seen come around and we watched grow up. I mean, really, your kid's in college. Watching her grow up all the way to now, which is crazy how big she's gotten. It's absurd.
Mm-hmm.
To also being successful in school and graduating in a timely fashion, and being a mom. Now you have 3 kids, you're
Yeah.
married, and you're successful. And really what you did, and I'm gonna hold off on that part because I leave that part to the end. You all know that I gotta have my wrap up, but it's so many things and so many testimonies that if we could really dive into it today, we would have. But I want to get into a thing that I've recently started doing called rapid questions. Now we're gonna keep digging in because I know I got a little bit more time left on the clock, but we're gonna go to rapid questions because it's been a lot of fun for me to do this with people, and I've caught on to other people enjoying it. So the way rapid question goes is exactly as it sounds. Just be concise with your answer. All right.
Okay.
And you don't have to develop on it unless you really want to, but I'm looking at the clock for you, so please don't go too long. All right.
Okay.
Softball thrown at you. Favorite sport?
Football.
Wow, everybody runs to football. Favorite
I like
book?
Um, oh my gosh. There's a movie for it. And I don't want to say this is bad. Um, oh my gosh.
Second
Okay,
favorite book,
yeah.
name.
No, 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 no. I want to say the favorite book that oh,
Do you know the actor or actress?
no, I really enjoy. It's a series that I really enjoy. Terrence would be so mad
Divergent,
at me. Um,
Mockingbird.
The Divergent series, Kill a Mockingbird. Oh, The Giver. The Giver is my favorite book. I read it when I was in high school, and no book that I've read since then has topped that. And there's a movie for it too. It's called The Giver, and I don't know the author, but it's called The Giver. My favorite book.
Okay. Favorite hobby?
Um, I like to cook.
Okay. If you could speak with anyone, dead or alive, not related to you, who would it be?
Not related to me. Okay. I would speak with dead or alive, Barack Obama.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
What is the dream position? You love your job, so I'm not talking about the dream company. What is the dream position if your company could create it, or what is your passion? What is your dream position?
Mm-hmm. I honestly love what I do. I would like to do so on a larger scale. I would
Yeah.
just love to, whether it be like a VP of operations, because I love what I do. I just would like to do so on a much larger scale than I'm in now.
Okay. Okay. And
Mhm.
are you talking about more properties, or are you talking about in charge of cities?
More properties, more properties, like, yeah, more properties and more properties.
Focusing on we're not trying to get too personal. All right. I learned my lesson from a recent interview from asking this question. All right. So be
Okay.
smart about the answer that you come with.
Good
As much as I
answer.
want you to be rapid, I want you to be smart. All right.
Right.
So, what is the song that matches this phase of life?
This phase of life. Okay. Um, you know,
And if it's easier, you can say an album.
I don't know. I think that I'm at I don't, there's a song called Que Sera Sera, Doris Day, I believe. And it just says Que Sera Sera, whatever will be, the future's not ours to see, Que Sera Sera. And so I'm at this point in my life, this phase of my life, I'm just like, I'm trusting God, relying on my faith, and just whatever will be, will be. I'm not trying to just control everything. And so that's kind of where I'm at.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the change you want to see in the world?
Mm. I think that I would like to rid the world of some of the ignorance that I feel is just muddied the waters across every continent. And I think there's a lot of ignorance out there, and I think I would just see a lot less of that.
And if the world had less of that ignorance, what would be the difference?
Respect, harmony, peace, um, and understanding. Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, you got through that.
I still on the book one, and I'm so mad, but The Giver is one of my favorite books ever. And the Divergent series is a big one of mine. I used to be a library like worm. Every Sunday I would go to the library, but with the kids, and I don't read as much as I would like to these
And you're an
days.
author. I just remembered that coming into
I
college.
did. I did some
You were an
poetry
author.
back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Forgot all about that. It was something about just now it hit me. I was like, she was an author, because I was used to be deep into writing poems, and I was like, man, I got to hit her up to learn how I get published for all the stuff that I got. I was,
Yes.
woo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what does a successful property manager look like? What's a successful property for you?
A successful property or a successful property manager?
Both.
Both. Okay. So a successful property manager. So I guess if you want to be successful, or you need to be confident. I think a successful property manager is definitely confident, and that's very visible. I don't think, obviously, confidence is not something like tangible, but it's very evident to others. And so I think that just to keep it short and kind of summarize it, I mean, you have to be confident. With confidence, in order to be confident, you have to be knowledgeable. So you got to kind of do your homework and make sure you know what you're talking about, do your due diligence. And so with your due diligence and your hard work comes knowledge, and knowledge brings confidence. I think that being confident is important. And I think a good property manager would be confident, one. For two, a good property is one without many problems, I would say. I mean, a property that's maintained well, a property that has a good team and a good staff. I think if I answered it right.
Yeah. It's whatever the answer is. So when it comes to your properties, and like you said, you work with owners, are you going out and getting more owners so that properties are always in play and that the portfolio is developing? Who's in the process? Who does that? Who's actually going out there and acquiring owners so you all can have more properties than you all bag?
Well, I've never actually done that, and I don't know if the company that I work for does that particularly. I know that we've actually been approached by investors and people that own like multiple properties or have, an asset portfolio that they want us to manage. But I've never went out and actually, sought investors or people for that. A lot of our acquisitions in the past have been by the current owners just purchasing more properties. And selling some others and purchasing new ones. But I haven't done that. I haven't dipped into that pool thus far.
Okay. As for the whole position in general, what's the best part? What's the best part about you? And it doesn't have to be your current role. It can be any of the roles you've had in this industry. What has been the best part about working in this industry?
So the best part. So I guess two things. Like I enjoy my role because I have a great team. And I know that's so cliche to say, like the people I work, but I really do enjoy, I enjoy my team. I think that in my role, I love that I'm able to empower people. Whether for my team, I work with all different types of people from all different types of backgrounds. And I like that I'm able to help them better themselves. Whether I've seen people that I've hired as leasing agents become property managers, and people that I've hired, as maintenance techs become maintenance supervisors. And so, kind of putting people in and hiring them in and, kind of training them and helping them develop, that definitely, I really enjoy that. And then also kind of, working with the public, working with tenants. I was just actually with somebody yesterday, and I was able to help them and talk them through, they had some issues in their apartment, quite frankly, and helping them. And at the end of the conversation, she was just like, thank you so much. Like, that just made me feel good. And I mean, even in my role where I don't deal with tenants on a day-to-day basis, still being able to not forget where I came from and, help somebody that, needed it because I could. And I knew that was a feel good for me.
Okay. 2 more questions left.
Yeah.
First one is, when it comes to your properties and the properties you've been in charge of and the properties that your company has, what type of properties are those?
What do you mean by what type? So I do multifamily. It's all residential. So we have 2 divisions. We have a commercial division and we have a residential division. So I'm in the apartment industry. So it's multifamily, although like a regional manager could be a regional regional manager for commercial asset, which would be like storefronts and like people who have buildings where small businesses operate and do business, right? But I am strictly on the residential side. And I have a mix of garden style apartments. I had a high rise, a couple a property that has some townhomes, and yeah, I mean, I've had high rises and garden style and townhomes, all three.
Okay. All right. Any of them that's your favorite, as in they're the most profitable? This isn't the second question, but I'm asking it anyway.
Yeah. So honestly, in a high rise, you have elevators, and elevators bring it's a lot of maintenance, a big capital expenses, and so it's just it's another thing to manage. So I would say the garden style apartments, the townhouses. People love townhomes because if they're not ready for home ownership, it definitely creates space for people who need more space because they've got X amount of people living with them in their household. I think townhomes are definitely one of my favorite types of properties. That I think townhomes would be my favorite.
Okay. Talking to your younger self, what would you tell her to make her be more successful faster? Because I believe you're currently successful, and if there's something you want to tell her, I'm just curious, what is that feedback you would give?
Yeah, I mean, so it kind of goes to the song that I said. It's like the theme of my life. Like I am a bit of a control freak. And I think that to tell my younger self that to control what you can control, and continue to work and not to worry about things. Just do what you can do. Put your best foot forward. Do the best that you can. Trust God, and just to have faith that everything's going to work out the way that it should. But that you can't just like be willy-nilly and like be like, oh, everything's going to work out. You have to put in the work. You have to do, and I did put in the work, but I was constantly like worrying about the next step and everything did work out. But I would tell my younger self to just kind of trust the process, or trust God, or trust your faith, and just to kind of enjoy the ride a little better.
Okay. For our audience, thanks, Hauna, for the time today. I want to get one last thing out, which is I'm sure there was something in this interview that we didn't cover. Is there anything valuable that, based off of your professional experience, that you want to leave behind with the audience?
Yeah, I would say that if I started out leasing and became an assistant manager and a property manager. If you like something, if you find yourself in a role that you really like, I would say to take the time to perfect your craft. And I think that if you work hard at something, and put yourself out there, good things will happen. And just believe in yourself ultimately, and definitely believe in yourself, and ask, closed mouths don't get fed. So work hard and put yourself in positions to grow. So I would definitely say that.
Okay. So, well, some of the takeaways that I got from this whole interview was take action. Like, go ahead and get active. Recognize there's an opportunity over there and step into it. Don't have the fear. Go ahead and be a hustler. You mentioned the fact that your song, Que Sera, Sera, whatever will be. But at the same time, the irony is you may not have even recognized the vision that you had. You were looking at HGTV, you were seeing your passion out there, and you found a way to connect with it through your actual position. And that's really what people should be doing, is trying to figure out, how can I get paid to do what I love? It doesn't have to be your own business. You can find a job that allows you to do what you love in your own way and still get paid for it, which will allow you to enjoy your day-to-day. And frankly, you have to be willing to bet on yourself. I hear the position, I hear everything you're saying, and a part of that is betting on yourself. You have to be able to put yourself out there and sell the property, sell people and believing in you, because you sold yourself to a place that you were living in. At the place you were living, you sold who you were as a viable option, and you were able to grow up that ladder so fast that, boom, look up, this amazing woman is currently a regional manager for a business that she didn't necessarily expect to have, but was connected to her vision. And that's usually how it works. If you connect your vision to your actions, sometimes you'll be surprised where you'll end up. So I appreciate you, Hauna. Thank you for your time.
Of course. Thank you so much, Mario.
And like that, two of these.
Bye, guys.
Woo, Jesus. All right. I appreciate you, Hauna. That was